All right, welcome to Real Estate Success. I'm your host, Mina Bedros, here today with Jon Jimenez, expert on homeowners insurance. John, great to have you here today.
Thank you, thank you. Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Awesome, man. So, real quick, without mentioning your professional accomplishments, can you tell us about who John is?
Well, just real quick and to the point. First generation college student, graduated from Kutztown University, as you can see. Um, and I've been in the insurance industry. Been blessed to be in the insurance industry on the property side for the entire 15 years of my career, and have worked with various large carriers throughout my career. So I have a pretty good knowledge base on a lot of different things, all within property.
Awesome. So, I was going to ask you what you do right now and in real estate. You kind of touched on that, but can you describe like your role a little bit in real estate and in homeowners insurance?
Yeah, so in real estate, the portfolio obviously is not very diverse at the moment. I'm trying to look for the right thing to invest in from a personal standpoint. And then from the insurance standpoint, I kind of hold a few different hats at the moment. I oversee a team of individuals that are essentially contractors working on behalf of a particular carrier to address catastrophe claims, which are claims like your hurricanes, like your tornadoes, things of that nature. So just trying to help out with those teams, and that's pretty much my day-to-day operations, working hands-on with them to try to get some payments out to people that are in severe need.
Cool. And what do you enjoy about kind of your job or doing working in homeowners insurance?
The biggest thing is it's the ability to provide service to people that are in need. You know, a lot of times, like I said, especially on the catastrophe side, they're in tremendous need for immediate assistance, and to be able to provide that and to be able to have some kind of leeway and kind of dictate more or less what kind of financial, opportunities we can identify for them to get them as much assistance up front as possible while the claims process takes place, which can kind of drag on for weeks and sometimes months, depending on the severity of the damage and the amount of damages within a given area, like a town and etc.
Cool. When someone is looking to get homeowners insurance, what they should be mindful of or what should they look for?
So the biggest indicators you want to identify would be the age of the home. You want to understand the differences between if there's plumbing involved, that's copper versus lead. The newer homes would have flex piping and what those opportunities are. You want to understand your basement. Is your basement one that has a sump pump or French drain, which allows water to get pulled to the outside if you happen to have a basement that floods. And there are indicators that you can check during your inspection process, like water stains on the concrete walls, some kind of mold growth that is potentially present during the inspection, which may be kind of something you pass by when you're looking at it, but if you realize what you're looking at from a closer perspective, then those are indicators of things that you may want to have additional insurance for. And those are things that you want to look for with regards to endorsements, which you'll have to talk to with your agent, or if you contact the carrier directly. And these are things you want to have coverage for because the average policy does not provide coverages for things like sump pumps, endorsements, things that you do have present at your house. So if they're there, you want to make sure you have coverage for them.
Awesome. Speaking of like additional coverage, what are some things that you see like extras that a lot of people pay for, but they probably don't need?
Well, the biggest thing, like I just stated before, is people that pay for sump pump and water backups. It's all encompassed into one endorsement. But if you don't have a sump pump, you realistically don't need that unless you're in an area that's prone to potential, let's say, clogs from an old sewer line that you're sharing with an entire community. Then you want to look into stuff and to make sure that you have the right amount of coverage because all those endorsements come with specific limits, but most of those companies provide you with the option to increase those limits between 5, 10, 25, etc. And so if you have a finished basement or a partially finished basement, you want to have more coverage than less coverage because that limit applies to the totality of damage. The other thing you want to be aware of is people whether it be a carrier or an agent selling you on split deductibles, which happens a lot for people. And how it's positioned is essentially to save you some money on your premium. But the reality is, you don't want to have two separate deductibles. For example, you don't want to have a wind and hail deductible and then an all other perils deductible, because the problem is any damage to the exterior of your home is likely going to be caused by either wind or hail. So if you have a higher deductible for those perils specific, then every time the damage occurs to the outside of your home, that deductible specifically will apply. And so basically, in layman's terms, if you have a $5,000 wind hail deductible, and for all the perils you have $1,000, well, every time you file a claim and have damages, you have to come out $5,000 out of your own pocket before you can start to get assistance from the insurance company to help mitigate the rest of those repairs. So you want to make sure that you have one deductible, whether it be 1,000, whether it be 2,500, and you're able to request the specific differences in a premium based off of those deductible amounts and differences, and they have to tell you if they're saving 5, 10, 15, $20 in your premium by having a separate deductible versus just one whole deductible for all damages that occur.
Right, so you're not having to pay multiple deductibles when you do a claim, pretty much, right?
Well, you're only going to pay one deductible, but the biggest get is that you want to make sure that that deductible is not going to stop you from being able to actually fix your repairs to your house. In which case, like I said, if you have damages to a roof and you're looking at a $25,000 estimate, but you're already out 5,000 out of your own pocket, well, I don't know. There's not a lot of people that can be able to constantly do that every couple of years. And the premium price or discount may only be $20. So for an additional $20 to your premium, you can have a flat deductible. Whereas instead of coming out 5,000, you're only coming out 1,000, and the rest of the replacement could potentially be on your insurance to address for you.
Do you think a lot of people ask what the deductible is when they secure the homeowner's insurance, or do you think most people find out when they process their first claim?
It's in my experience that a lot of people do not ask, or they're not aware that there are separate deductibles placed on their particular policy, because a lot of people just ask for different ways to lower their premium. And so if you don't give specific direction to the agent, or if you don't pay attention to the boxes that you're clicking, if you're on the site directly getting your insurance that way, then they're going to do exactly what you asked for, which is to lower your premium. And the easiest way to do that is to separate your deductibles. The other thing to be cognizant of is for those people who think insurance isn't important, so I'll just put it on my mortgage and just have it bank placed. Well, you can do that, and that's fine. But the only caveat is if the mortgage company provides you with your insurance, the only thing the mortgage company is insuring is the actual building or home. It's not insuring anything inside your house because the bank does not have any vested interest in your personal property. They only have vested interest in the building until it's paid off. So if you can, if you're in any kind of place to be able to do it, pick your insurance.
So we're gonna get to talking about like what does it cover, what doesn't cover in a second. But does it happen where someone thought their insurance policy covered damage and it didn't? I mean, does that happen often?
It happens more often than you would think.
Why do you think that that happens? Right, like from a homeowner's perspective, and kind of like how can the homeowner protect themselves from that?
Well, I think the best way to do it, from what I've seen in my discussions with people over the years, is essentially, do a lot of research on your own, understand definitions, terminology, because these policies are essentially contracts written up by lawyers somewhere. And so it could be overwhelming. But if you learn the definitions that are involved, then you can understand what the policy essentially is telling you. And if you know that your house and you understand, what you do and don't have in a particular home, like I said, some pumps, do you have, trampolines, things of that nature that you need fences for, stuff like that. The more aware you are of everything that is going on with you purchasing a home, the better off you'll be. Do your research in regards to your agents, whoever you're working with. I would not go with somebody that's recommended by a third party. Always do your own research on the person themselves. Find some keywords, see if they even know what those keywords mean. Because a lot of times agents essentially are salespeople that are able to sell specific and multiple product lines across different carriers. they're not very carrier specific unless you walk into a specific agent that only sells, one specific insurance from one specific carrier. And even then, they're not necessarily, they don't have to be well versed in insurance. They just have to be able to pass the test to become agents. So the more homework you can do on your own, the better off you'll be because at least you'll have an opportunity to ask as many questions as possible.
Cool. And real quick, like what type of questions should someone ask?
Well, the biggest things that you should ask is one, does your policy limits meet or take care of what the value of your home is, what the value of your personal property is? Because understand that those property limits that you're showing on your declarations page when you purchase insurance, that's the worst case scenario, end all be all. So God forbid something happens and there's an event where it takes out your entire home and everything in it. Those policy limits are exactly what you can expect to be reimbursed by the insurance for, no more, no less, unless you're able to purchase endorsements that will potentially increase those coverages. So you want to make sure that the values that are stated on the front of a declarations page are actually exactly what your home is worth. And every time that the property value increases, you can call your agent, you can call back into your homeowners and say, hey, listen, this is what my property is currently valued at, and this is what my policy limit for coverage A is. I need to get this straightened out and rectified just in case worst case scenario. You always want to be prepared for things like that. The other things you want to be just cognizant of is premium differences between variable deductibles and fixed deductibles. Um, what kind of limits are provided to you and what are available to you per each endorsement. Like I stated before, a sump pump water backup limit has different tiers. Each tier comes with a higher premium. You just want to make sure that you're able to have enough to cover what you could lose potentially. And if you don't, then just find ways to offset those things by making sure you have coverage. So these are the biggest indicators. Just make sure that you have enough coverage for what is in your home and what your home is worth.
Cool. In general, or by default, if there is such a thing, what do policies normally cover or don't cover? Like what big items do they normally cover or don't cover?
Usually they will cover water damages that reside inside the home. So they have to originate from inside your actual home. Things that reside from the outside of the house, you're on shaky ground whether they will or not be covered. I'm not. That's not to say that they won't be, but you're less you're less sure of those things. Now, if there's a pipe break inside the house anywhere or an overflow from a toilet, somebody uses too much toilet paper, etc. These things happen. 9 times out of 10, you're going to get coverage unless, again, you have a bank place policy, in which case it's up in the air. On the outside, most of the time, anything that's considered an act of God, that's how they look at it. So an act of weather, a one-time weather event. But if you have an issue that's been ongoing for several weeks, months, years, and you've noticed it and you've tried to patch it yourself, and then you finally file a claim, there's going to be some issues with that. So the best thing to do is just when you're unsure, you can file a claim every time. And if you determine throughout the process that, hey, listen, you know what? I don't have a claim here, or I don't want to proceed with the claims process, you can let your insurance company know, and they have to close out that claim for you in some way, shape, or form.
Awesome. Are there different types of policies, like for single family, condo, rental, vacation home, and does it really make a difference?
So there are different policies depending on, what kind of dwelling you have. Um, what you need to be mindful of is sometimes when you have a townhome or an attached single family home, they are considered a condo because they have an HOA fee, which the HOA fee could be as simple as just your trash and maybe your lawn care. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you actually live in a condo. You actually do live in a single family home. So you want to make sure that the policy that you have for something like that is more of an HO3, which is a homeowner's policy, and not a condo policy, which is much more limited in coverage. So you want to be aware of things like that. If you're renting a property out, you do have the opportunity to have a different type of policy, okay, which also would just limit your liability for personal property that's not yours, that's currently in the property by the renter. Um, that's all a dealer's choice kind of preference, but you don't have to have a specific policy because you're renting a property. If it's a single family home, you can have a regular HO3 homeowners policy on it. If it's a condo, you can have a regular HO6 policy on it. For renters, I would highly recommend, if you don't own where you're currently resting your head, have renters insurance. Whatever type of renters insurance is available to you, have it. If you don't own the place you're currently living in, you're renting it in any way, shape, or form, whether it's from your parents, whether it's from, a family friend or anybody, just get renters insurance. And here's why. I was in the insurance industry about 5 years when I moved into an apartment with a few friends and didn't think anything of it. So I figured, hey, I have plenty of time to get some renters insurance. And unfortunately, probably in less than 2 months, we were all in a significant building fire and we all lost all of our personal property and none of us had renters insurance. So it's a lesson learned where you don't know when you're going to need it. So as soon as you're in a situation, make sure you're insured. Make sure all your stuff that you own, that you put your hard work and your hard money into, that it's taken care of and covered for you, because there are every kind of insurance out there for you to get coverage for all these things.
And that's very unfortunate. I'm glad you guys are okay. And talk about renters insurance real quick. I mean, price wise, it's not very costly, right? I mean, so
No, it's not very
could be
costly.
a
And if you
deterrent.
have, yeah, you can package it with your auto insurance. A lot of people do that, but it's a very relatively inexpensive bill for what you get as far as coverage goes.
Cool. Few quick scenarios. Let's say I buy a home to live in it, and I get homeowners insurance, and then I rent it out. The tenant causes damage. Can I file a claim for the damages there? Am I covered?
You can file a claim, you may or may not be covered because all those situations are state specific, because certain states require certain policy language to be automatically placed within the policy, that either prevents the insurance company from having to pay for those things or gives the owner of the home kind of more leeway to have more coverage without having to buy endorsements. But there are endorsements that you can pay for and add coverage to your policy for things like that. But all that stuff is state specific, so I wouldn't be able to give you a blanket answer that would do it
Okay.
justice. So you would just look into your state, look into your policy, and that's a good question to ask your agent, and just be very upfront with your agent or even with the carrier if you're getting your policy directly through them.
Cool. So a lot of people probably don't call their homeowners insurance as often as they should, or when they should. Um, when should somebody call their homeowners insurance company?
All right, so this is probably going to be a biased answer for myself, but I would say call your homeowners insurance pretty much for everything that you don't have the 100% monetary capacity to pay for yourself. If you can fix it yourself and you can fix the damages as well as the cause of the damage yourself, by all means do so. If it's not gonna mess up your life and your day-to-day responsibilities, then take care of it and save an insurance claim for something that's bigger. But for those that don't have that ability, by all means, that's what it's there for. You're gonna pay your insurance for the lifespan of your house, even after you own it. You're probably gonna have insurance. You might file 2 or 3 claims in your entire life. So the rest of that money is going straight to the insurance company because you don't call in your claims. So my opinion, call a claimant. If you can't afford to pay for it yourself, file a claim.
And what's the process of making a claim? I mean, should you call the insurance company directly? Should you contact the public adjuster? Should you get contractor quotes first? What's kind of best practices there?
So best practices, I would say, again, it's on the individual and where you are currently. If you're somebody who's inundated with just the responsibilities of life and don't have the time to deal with the day to day, even sometimes hour to hour responsibilities of communication, and getting things to an insurance company and receiving things from an insurance company, then maybe you want to hire a public adjuster who will do that stuff for you and pretty much just kind of take claim handling over for you, but that understand that that person now is the legal representation of your claim from start to finish. So depending on again on the state and on the carrier, legally sometimes they don't have to discuss anything with you. Everything will go through your public adjuster, and so you may be misinformed or very much so not informed on certain things throughout your process. But again, it'll take that thing right off your plate. If you have the capacity to deal with it yourself, deal with it yourself. You have the right to do emergency services. So let's say you have a water loss. By all means, the first person I would call if it's a major loss or if there's water in multiple rooms, it's called a water mitigation company. You want to be very aware of who you contact when it comes to that. Do your homework, make sure they're licensed, make sure they're insured. But you can do that simultaneously as you're filing a homeowner's claim. So what I would do first, if it was me personally, assess the situation as far as the damage. Do I need emergency services? Do I need a tree taken off my house? Do I need my roof patched because there's a hole in the wall? Do I need to stop this water leak from occurring because the water's just out of control? Handle those things first. At the same time, take a moment, call your insurance company, give them a heads up. Sometimes these insurance companies will have vendors for you so that that takes something off your plate as far as having to Google somebody that's licensed, etc. Because everybody that's in the vendor program with these insurance companies has been licensed, have been properly vetted. So at least you know that their work is supposed to be above reproach. And if there's any issues, you can always have the insurance company deal with it and follow up with them as well, as opposed to dealing with the person yourself if you hire a contractor who doesn't do a good job or skips out with your money, which happens more than you think. But every time file a claim, and at the same time, you can do things simultaneously. Make sure that your house is being mitigated from further damages.
Now, with that, if the insurance company doesn't cover those charges, obviously, then you would have to cover them, right? If you already got those
Correct.
services, right?
Correct. Right. So the good thing is when it comes to certain mitigation companies or mitigation services like a water mitigation company, they're going to be very aware of whether an insurance claim has been filed or not based off of their conversation with you. Sometimes they'll be the ones that suggest that insurance claim be filed for people that aren't even aware that these things can be covered. And they will work with the insurance companies for you. And at the same time, you just have to let them know, hey, listen, I'm going through the insurance process. We have not been able to confirm whether there will be coverage or not for this particular claim. So while we're in the process of getting coverage determined and confirmed, let's just do the bare necessities and not expand on let's say cleanup that may not necessarily be something that's immediately needed to be done until you can confirm coverage because you want to mitigate your out-of-pocket expenses just in case, like you said, um, there ends up being no coverage for a claim, in which case everything is out of pocket.
Makes sense. Um, what happens when the insurance company identifies something as just a repair, but the contractors, or the vendors identify it as like a needs replacement, pretty much?
So that happens often as well. And when that occurs, essentially you can always request a reinspection or a reevaluation of something that was, let's say, confirmed and put together by an initial inspection. Sometimes things get missed. Sometimes the contractor is obviously trying to sell you on damages being worse than what they are so that they can profit more from the work. And sometimes that could be the case, but the insurance policy specifically only states that coverage is, extended for only a certain amount of things. So all things can be true at one time. So the best thing to do, in my opinion, is get all your information, see where the contractor is coming from, see what the insurance company says, and request a reinspection or request a second opinion. So at least you have multiple opinions that you can provide the insurance company to consider, or again, have the insurance company send somebody out completely different than your first inspection. Because sometimes, what somebody missed, somebody else is going to catch. So you don't always have to settle on what the first outcome is.
But you contact your insurance company for that second opinion or that reinspection. They just send somebody else, right?
They will, yeah. And if they don't, then you can do your job as a customer and kind of be very diligent and persistent until that's provided. But make sure that you have multiple, let's say multiple bids or multiple contractor estimates confirming the same amount of information that's provided to you by the first contractor, and that way you know that maybe something was missed here, as opposed to getting two or three people out there and two people aligned with the insurance company and one person is completely different. In which case, maybe that person's trying to get one over on you.
Right, right. Um, After I get a policy in place, should I review it, and how often should I review it, or maybe shop it around?
Yeah, I would get a full copy of your policy, which you have the right to request, and some insurance companies do provide it to you in the mail. You'll get an email with what's called your declarations page, which just provides you with your overviews of all your limits. as well as any endorsements that you purchased. But you are entitled to a full policy. And like I said, if they don't send it to you right away, you can request one. And then I would take that document and I would find somebody who's well versed in insurance, or even a lawyer if you have that in your repertoire and your disposal, and just have them walk you through what everything says. Because the document itself is very long, it's a lot of pages, and it can be very frustrating to read through because um, it kind of contradicts itself along the way, put it that way. But if you understand it fully, or at least as best you can, then you're one step ahead when it comes to filing a claim or potentially even deciding if you should file a claim or not. So
Now,
everybody
can
has
you have
access to that policy.
can you have a representative from the insurance company kind of walk you through it, or is that just not something that they do?
They normally won't do that that I'm aware of unless you're in the process of having a claim handled by the insurance company. In which case, if you were able to get an adjuster assigned to your claim specifically, who has the time and the patience and more so the knowledge to walk you through the policy, then yes, you can give you some. He or she can give you, some bullet points.
Right.
Help you understand it more than the average person. But realistically, if you just find somebody that's well versed in insurance or well versed in just contracts in general, they'll be able to provide you more or less the same information.
Cool. Um, is there anything a person can do to lower their insurance premium, but without obviously sacrificing, I guess, other benefits?
Yeah, absolutely. Every time that you make an improvement to your home, whether it be, let's say, putting up new fencing or taking it upon yourself to replace your roof, or maybe you remodel your kitchen, and in doing so, you decide to, upgrade to some more traditional common plumbing for today versus when the house was built. All you got to do is just call your insurance company and let them know that you want to report the improvements that you've made to your property. And one of two things will happen more times than not. They'll either affect your premium in a good way, or, like I said, your coverages on your limits will go up, and so you'll have limits that reflect the value of the inside of a house right now. Because insurance companies don't normally send people to look at your property, and if they do, they're just looking at the outside of the property. They're not going to ask you to come inside, um, in most cases. So that's the biggest way for you to be kind of an advocate for yourself in regards to letting the insurance companies know, hey, I'm not only am I maintaining my property, but I'm also improving my property in general, and that goes a long way when it comes to your policy. And they do note every call, every conversation, so you'll have it on record somewhere.
Cool. I'm gonna get your advice to homeowners, to investors, to real estate professionals. So we'll start with homeowners, really quick. Just advice for homeowners and their policies based on some of the common things that you see.
Now, be patient. Don't pass the buck to somebody else when it comes to getting an insurance policy and being informed on what insurance is, what it covers, and again, the definitions that you're going to see over and over again and that are going to be explained to you over and over again throughout a claims process. So just don't pass the buck. Take the extra time. You're already taking the time to buy the house and go through that process. Take the extra few days to get some, investment of knowledge on policy in general and what you have.
Cool. What about advice for investors or folks who own multiple properties? Anything they should be mindful of there?
Just making sure that you're not bouncing around with different carriers for different properties. The best thing to do is to have find a policy that works for you, that works for your property type, and just have all properties under that one umbrella. Because you can have multiple properties under one specific policy, all in your name. That's not illegal. But you don't want to be bouncing around between different insurance companies because it can get frustrating for you, especially if you have a catastrophe event where you have multiple properties in a specific township affected, and now you're going to have completely different coverage for each one of them.
That's very interesting. How about real estate professionals like real estate agents or mortgage lenders? How should they guide their clients when it comes to homeowners insurance?
My opinion would be to attach yourself to somebody in the insurance industry, whether it be on the carrier side, but ultimately somebody who is well versed and knowledgeable in insurance, and just have that wealth of knowledge or that knowledge base to be able to provide your customers. Because at the end of the day, the assumption is that all trust is going to be provided into your insurance and insurance agent, and whatever they recommend, 9 times out of 10 people are going to listen to it, especially first time home buyers. And so if you can point them in the right direction, I think, it makes you, the individual, look great. It also allows for a great word of mouth marketing and advertisement for you and your services. But at the end of the day, the peace of mind that comes with it is knowing that your customer now has a leg up on, let's say, the other homeowner that just purchased a house at the exact same time, because now they're going to be provided with an insurance base that the other person may or may not be.
Awesome. Well, man, this was very informative. Inside the world of real estate, the world of homeowners insurance is a world of its own. Inside of that, and I think, especially even as a real estate professional, I think a lot of people overlook homeowners insurance in the transaction. Kind of it comes towards the end. It's A lot of people don't focus on it, right, from a consumer standpoint, and I think even the other professionals involved, because it's not their expertise, it's not their role anyway. And
Right.
buyers, they're just trying to get homeowners insurance because they need to, right, and it's a requirement. But there's not a lot of due diligence there. But I think there's a lot of horror stories that happen when people don't have the right policy and aren't covered. Then it's kind of like they wish they would have spent more time up front. So this was helpful. Hopefully people took some notes and are more aware. Thank you, John, once again, and maybe we'll do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck to everybody. And remember, you're paying for insurance. You might as well file that claim. When in doubt, just file it. See what happens.
For sure. Thanks again. Look out for another episode of Real Estate Success. Hopefully this was helpful, folks.
All right. Take care.